Today, we're going to talk about systems collapse. Because that's what happened in 1177 BC. Yes, the late Bronze Age collapse. What did we have? We had the Hittites in Turkey, the Egyptians as well. We always have the Egyptians, don't we? We have the various island nations, city-states if you prefer, Cyprus, Greece. We had all these people scattered around, all talking to each other. Mycenaean, Minoans, and so on. The Phoenicians, of course, don't we? So, we're all talking to each other. Linear A. We have cuneiform. And everybody's speaking Akkadian. Because that was the language of diplomacy. We traded back and forth. International trade, international diplomacy, the odd war here and there, the round and exchange of gifts. Yes, it was a whole international scene. Just like the late Roman Empire, you know, where you had various forms of money and so on. In the case of the Bronze Age, it was ingots. Ingots of lead, ingots of copper, ingots of gold, ingots of silver, ingots. All the goods were traveling. You had, olive oil from Spain. The good stuff. Grapes, grain, everything, back and forth. And then all of a sudden you didn't have any of it. Whole city-states, poofed, disappeared. We used to call it, the sea people. That was the blame. The sea people came. Well, yeah, but not as simple as that. We had an earthquake storm. We had volcanic activity. We had diminished rain over a period of like 300 goddamn years. It takes a lot. Because when you have international relationships and everybody's trading all kinds of different goods, you could say, my father, do you not know that there's famine in my lands? Please send me grain. Help me out here. And people would help each other out. And then drought would come to them. Because when it's climate change, ain't nobody not having a bad time. And yes, it was a bad time. Because you can't kind of limit the effects of earthquakes and lack of rainfall to one state at all. You just can't do it. I mean, it's over the whole area. Now, precisely why we had a drought that led to famine, that led to migration, which might account for the sea people coming by going, well, we can't live there, so we decided we'd come and see if we could live with you. No. Then, of course, then you just get a little restless when they see the boss man can't fix the problems, they tend to go on a rampage. So it may not have been damaged because of the sea people invaded. It may be a damage because the populace rioted and decided that you had to go and you weren't leaving peaceful. Yeah. Sound familiar? So there we are. The late Bronze Age collapse. Afterwards, you will never see cuneiform used again. People stopped speaking Akkadian entirely. There's no more Linear A. These were all the languages of diplomacy, of international trade, and so on. But you're not going to see that anymore because there is no international trade, because you've broken the ties. The various royal families, the herd has been thinned, and nobody knows anybody else. Yeah, they've forgotten the way to go to whatchamacallit. Which port, at which time of year, and so on. They had a whole itinerary of ships going, this way, that way, and the other. So yeah, it sounds familiar, doesn't it? But no, now we have Linear B, a simplified form, but nobody's writing because scribes no longer exist. Because who did the scribes work for? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and they were rather, riots tend to be wholesale when it's on this sort of a scale. So, devastation, there you go. And in fact, some peoples never recovered. The Minoans, the Mycenaeans, and when they do recover, some of these places were completely different than what they were before. Troy never recovered. And then Troy is just an example of the whole. Even Egypt, mighty old Egypt, was never quite the same again. Never reached her pre-collapse eminence. Then you had the Assyrians and the Persians, the Spartans and the Greeks over at Athens. All these new groups, the Etruscans, the Romans, this whole... Punt? Does anybody know where Punt was? Well, actually, yes, we do. But that's because of archaeology has progressed since 1177 BC. So, yeah. And can we prove all this happened? Yes. Yes, we can. So, the other thing is, can we learn anything from this? Yes, we can. It does not do to be so utterly specialized that you can't take over or manage to do what's the most critical. And in this day and age, it's oil and gas, petrochemicals. Okay? The United States can do it. Maybe Canada can do it. We know Russia and the Middle East can do it. But other places not so much. So you can see the systems collapse and the whole petrochemical thing would be disastrous. But it never is just one thing that takes you out. It's one thing building on another thing, building on another thing, building on another thing, building on another thing. Weak, weaker, weakening, weakest. Until you go. And then you get, a populace losing its bloody mind on rubbishing nonsense. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Let's not even go there, okay? Let's try to keep this clean. Don't want to see me cursing again, do you? I don't think so. So, and that's why we're doing semiconductors here. And that's why we import some petrochemicals and export others. Oh yes, we're an exporting nation, okay? So, never forget that. And yes, we have things like the UN for a purpose. So everybody can get together. Everybody has some input. Everybody has some connection with some others. Some connectivity. We know who the Chinese are this week. We know who the Africans are. We know, Djibouti. Who's in power? In Peru, for example, you have to know, because if you have a question, you have to know who to ask. You got to pay attention. You can't have diplomatic relations if you don't know who the diplomats are. All right? So why did Biden relax the sanctions on Cyprus? If you don't know, it's to poke Turkey in the ribs. But why would you want to poke Turkey in the ribs? Do you see? As it was, so it still remains. Because human beings evolve slowly. Even society evolves slowly. Sometimes. Empires rise, empires fall. Trade networks rise, trade networks fall. Did you know France used to have a silk industry to rival Japan and China? Probably not. But so it was. The more you know, the less foolishness you're going to indulge in. So, I recommend the book 1177 BC in the latest edition, because newer data has been discovered, codified, debated, and stuffed into the book. And he writes very well, too. There's quite a lot of amusement in there. And I think if you're at all historically minded, you will find it amusing. In any case, I recommend Mr. Cline's book and his video. Mind you, this is just after Thucydides and the Peloponnesian War. That was something else. But we're not talking about the Scythians coming across yet. So, these are sea peoples. Some of them did drive ox carts and bring their family with them. So it's not entirely by sea. But they weren't Scythians. Not yet. They hadn't left Mongolia and the steppes. But they'll get around, and they'll spread devastation too. International travel's always so broadening, don't you think? So let's keep all the little layers in order as we go along. So, thank you for watching. I hope this helps, gives you something else to worry about. Will we get another bunch of black swans come across and spread havoc? Thank you for watching. Please do come again.